morning, students. I hope I'm audible to all. Am I audible? Can all of you hear me? Students, please respond to the questions pane that is there, if you all can hear me. Am I audible? Thank you so much for responding, Eva. What about others? Can you all hear me? Once you will confirm, then only I'll proceed with the class. Am I audible, students? Can you all hear me? Please respond to the question pane that is there, or comment through the chat. If I'm audible to all, please confirm so that we can start. Thank you so much for confirming, Saloni. All right, so let us quickly start the session. A very warm welcome to all of you. This is Shivani Sharma, your mentor from mentorbuddy.com. And today, this is the last session in the series of the soft skills module training that we were having. This training in soft skills is organized by MentorBuddy for your benefit. As promised, we will also be having one live session, right? So that will be scheduled next week, maybe Saturday. This coming Saturday, we will be having a live session for which you all will receive the invite. Those students who have connected with me over email, through resume, or in terms of sharing assignments for the classes, only they will be receiving the invite for the live session, right? So if you have not shared your resume till now, please do share that on feedback.mentorbuddy@gmail.com if you want to be a part of the class, right? So let us quickly start the session. I hope all of you can see the screen now. All right, so today is the 22nd session, right? And we are going to talk about persuasion and influence, right? So this is persuasion and influence. Please ignore the timeline, as this session was meant for last Sunday, where we could not do because of the technical lag that I was facing, right? So let us quickly talk about, we will be discussing definition of persuasion and how can you persuade and influence others. Before I could really start the session, let me just ask you all one question. What do you think is persuasion? Persuasion is nothing but an attempt when you really try to change the beliefs or the attitudes, the intentions, motivation or behavior of other people. But one thing that is important in persuasion is you are not going to make use of coercion or deception. Coercion means punishment, right? So you are not just going to have an impact on somebody's behavior, by forcing him or her, or by introducing the element of punishment or fear, right? So this is not there. Or deception means to deceive somebody, to fake something. So persuasion is when you are trying to change the belief of the other person, right? Or motivate somebody without actually making use of your power, without making use of money, without making use of coercion or deception, right? Now, I just want to show you all a very interesting short story which I came across, which I think will be, interesting for all of us to see. This is a bit, funny story. Let us have a look at the same. And then we will be discussing about it, that what is your impression on the same. I hope all of you can see the YouTube video. Can all of you see the YouTube link that I'm showing on the screen? Are you all able to see? Okay, great. Thank you so much for confirming, Vanchita and Vanshi. All right. Right. So students, what is your impression? I've clearly seen that it was a story related with persuasion, right? I just want to understand from you all. Yes. What is your impression? What is your learning, or no, what is the outcome of the story? Good morning, Sachin sir. Right. So I just want to understand from all of you that the story which I have shown to you, although it was a funny story, where there were, two animals and they were trying to convince each other. And the first really lost its life to prove it to the other fellow that this is not a wooden log, rather it's a crocodile. So sometimes it happens, students, that just to prove yourself right, people, they don't even take care of their well-being and all. They just want to prove themselves right at any cost without even realizing the repercussions of the same. Isn't it? How many of you agree with me? Right? So you will find a lot of people coming to you and saying, Dekha, maine kaha tha ye yoga. I told you that this is going to happen. I told you that you are going to get failed. I told you that I will hurt my leg if I am going to jump from here. But still they will jump. Right? Just to prove the other person wrong. So this is not what we are supposed to do. Persuasion means to make somebody agree with your points without harming the other person and you also. Right? So in this entire process of persuasion, nobody should be at the receiver's end. That is what I want to share. Right? So I hope that everybody liked the story. I liked it very much. So I thought that let me share this with you all. Right? So let us just talk about a very important book is there. If you all want to understand more of persuasion skills, you can read that. That book is by Robert Cialdini, and it is called as the 6 Principles of Persuasion. Nowhere else could I find a better content related with persuasion skills. You will find a summary of this book available on YouTube. You can refer to that. So in this class, we are going to talk about the 6 principles of persuasion as suggested by Robert in his book. These principles are reciprocity, commitment and consistency, consensus, authority, liking, and scarcity. Right? So let us just talk about this. The first being the law of reciprocity. Students, it is very important to understand a very basic fact that the laws of nature says give and take. Right? So if you will say take and give, you might not be very comfortable in saying the same. But ideally, the law says give and take. That means you have to give first and then you will get something in return. Right? So according to the law of reciprocity, when someone does something nice for you, There's a deep psychological urge to do something in return. And that is one of the ways in which you can persuade other person. I am not saying to what extent you should do, what you should do. It's not about making the other person obliged, but yes, it is about being helpful. It is about being sincere. It is just about being human, right? So that is the law of reciprocity, which is suggested by Robert Cialdini, saying that this is one of the basic skills if you want to be a good persuader or if you want to improve your persuasion skills. The second principle of persuasion says commitment and consistency. People commit to what they think is right, okay? And they will honor that commitment also. So you'll find that generally people are most likely to do what is consistent with what they have done in the past, right? Suppose you have your own set standards of preparing for your final exams, right? You follow your own strategies. You might have come across a lot of students, those who sit just a night before their exams to study. And at the same time, you will find there are a set of students who prepare for the entire year for their exam. They have a very systematic, disciplined approach of preparing. A student who prepares overnight for the exams and is able to pass the exams with good grades as per his or her expectations will certainly be committed to follow that way of preparing only. Isn't it? How many of you agree with me on this? Why? Because they think that it is the right approach. If you're going to learn before 3 months, you will forget everything, whatever you have learned, right? And they have adopted this strategy in the past, and with the help of the strategy, they have also succeeded in their exams. So they are going to follow the same routine way of preparing for their exams, isn't it, students? How many of you agree with me on this? Come on, quickly, right? So they have a pattern, right? Thank you so much for confirming, Eva. What about others? Okay, Dhwani is also saying agree. Right, Sachin sir. Even I agree with you, right? So as a professional also, we have our own set ways. For example, let me give you my example, right? I have seen that in my couple of classes, in my training sessions also, I've seen that including audio visuals, having short stories, or making use of, real life examples have a more positive impact on students, right? So that is the pattern that I've observed. So now I'm committed to this pattern. Now I maintain this consistency that in every class I'll be sharing some short stories, I'll be sharing some audio visuals, right? So that you can also understand the concepts and you all enjoy the classes that I deliver, right? So this is what we mean by commitment and consistency, and this is what Robert Cialdini has suggested as a second principle of persuasion, right? Now, the next principle of persuasion, okay, so there are other things related to it, right? As you can see that people are committed to do what they think right, with what they have done in the past. The third being scarcity. Now tell me one thing, if you have something that is abundant, are you going to, value that thing? Before this pandemic, right, nobody would have thought of giving so much of importance to their family life, giving so much of importance to their health, to the immune system, to the environment around, to plant trees. There were a set of people, a group of people who have already, have always been advocating this, right? But before this pandemic, we were not very sure of all these things, that we need to maintain personal hygiene. We need to wash our hands every time when we are coming from outside or every time before eating food. Although we have read all these things in our, basic value education books right from childhood, that wash your hands before eating anything, right? Change your clothes, put out your slippers, right? So all these things we have been studying, but over a period of time, because of the influence of Western culture, we tend to forget, or probably we feel that this is what modernity is all about, right? We do not believe in making use of Ayurveda to improve our immune system. Rather, we prefer to, eat Amway or, organic medicines to improve our immune system. But now people have gone back to the same turmeric milk which our mothers and grandmothers have suggested, isn't it? So we value information and commodities that are scarce, and we value them more when they are lesser in comparison to when they are abundant, right? So the principle of scarcity is another thing that will be helpful for you if you want to be an influential person who can persuade others without making use of coercion. Of course, authority is something that is really important. So coming, if a doctor suggesting you that have turmeric milk twice a day, that will help you boost your immune system and it will make you, good. Your immune system will be strong to fight with the pandemic. Of course, we are going to believe, right? So we believe what trustworthy and credible experts say. And to be seen as an expert, you need credentials and trustworthiness, right? I'm sure that before, when I started with these seminars or the webinars on soft skills, and when you were registering for these webinars, I'm sure you would have visited my profile as well, which is there on COE website, that is Center of Excellence. You must have been wondering that who is going to take the webinar? What are the credentials of that person? Whether that person is experienced enough to take the classes or not, right? Okay, tell me one thing, students. How many of you have tried to see my profile on COE website or on LinkedIn? How many of you have tried to review my profile to check that whether the person who's going to take your class is having an expertise or is having an authority in the same? Yes, Sachin sir, I know we are connected on LinkedIn, right? What about the students? How many of you took out the time to explore that who's going to take your class and whether what ma'am is teaching in class is it really influential, impactful, or is she having the authority to talk about all these things? Or she's just a novice, a fresher who's talking about all these things? Nobody has done that? None of the students? Come on, students, please respond to the chat box. Okay. No, that's completely fine, Sachin sir. That's completely fine. And that is what, if you are not doing this, you should do this. Before trusting anybody, before considering anybody as your mentor, or before just following what the other person is telling you, please try to have a look at the profile of the person. Please try to see that whether that person holds the authority to talk about those things, how successful the person is, right? So when you are going to, definitely Sachin sir, when you are going to buy something, you always try to check the reviews on Amazon or Flipkart. But before believing anybody, are you trying to find out the authenticity of that information that is coming to you? Yes, Dhwani, certainly you can, after, once you have attended a webinar or attended somebody's session, please try to figure out the authority of the person whom you were listening to before coming to any conclusion or before really following that. I've seen people following a lot of, what do you say, homemade remedies, right? Or home remedies for different physical ailments without even checking the authenticity that what they are going to do. And sometimes they really land up in troubles, right? Or students blindly following some format of resume writing and they say that, ma'am, I've Googled and I've find it out. There are thousands and thousands of suggested things on Google. It is your responsibility to check the authenticity of that particular information before coming to a conclusion or before really following the same, right? That is what we mean by authority. Then the next principle as suggested by Robert Cialdini is consensus. I'm sure that all of us know this particular phone very well, right? And you will see people around, your students around you, going mad about this, right? Why? Because people like to be associated with popular things, and Apple phone is something that is very popular. Now, this has become a status symbol. So, students or professionals who are doing well, students who belong to affluent family, they want to, show off their status with this particular brand cell phone, right? Why? Indians, or in fact, all of us have the ability, have this basic need of consensus. We'd like to be associated with popular things, isn't it? Liking. People are more likely to say yes to people they like. Suppose you don't like me, right? Then whatever I am going to tell you, are you going to follow that? Are you going to trust what I'm going to say? There might be n number of reasons that you don't like me, or there might be n number of reasons that you like me also. It's not always negative, it's positive as well, right? So when you like me, of course, whatever I'm going to say, you are going to follow that, or you are going to like that, in fact. But if you don't like me, the things goes vice versa. So liking is also one of the principles that you need to follow for persuasion skills. Now the question arises, ma'am, how can we maintain that likability? Now for likability, that doesn't mean that you go out in the rain and start dancing. No. You see, we have talked about a lot of things. If you remember properly, we have talked about grooming skills also. We have talked about communication, body language, and we said that if you want to be the most likable person in the workplace, right? So culmination of all those skills which we have been talking about in the past will help you in becoming the most likable person, and that is also one of the ways in which you can have an influence over others or can persuade others, right? Elements of likability. There are three elements we are talking about. Why and how do people like someone? We like people that are similar or have similar interest as us, right? So if you just have a glance around you, you will find that who are your friends, or with whom do you tend to become friends? With people who have similar interests, or who have similar kind of skill set, work in similar organization, belong to a similar kind of a place. Affinity is also very important. People also like genuine compliments, and it is, believe me, it's very, very easy to differentiate between genuine compliments and flattery, right? And people like those who are willing to help each other as well, right? So these are the three elements that will certainly help you in increasing the likability, right? So with these words, I just want to show you all another very interesting video that will also sort of act as a recap of the skills that we have just not talked about as shared by Robert Cialdini. Okay, how many of you agree with me on this? How many of you feel that there are few people who easily get what they want, but there are a lot of, in fact, a majority of us who have to struggle to get what they desire? How many of you feel that way? Is that there are a majority of people who get easily what they want, but poor me, I have to struggle so hard to get everything? Okay, I could see only 2 and 3 students responding in the class. Why is that so? Are you people not liking the class or what? Come on, students, this is just the last class, so please do interact with me. Right. So believe me, everybody feels the same. Even I also feel that I have to struggle a lot to, to make or to make the things work for me. Right. Definitely, majority of us have to struggle. But by improving our soft skills, by improving our skills to persuade and influence others, it becomes easier to get our things done, isn't it? All right, so all of us agree on this, so let us have a look. So I hope everybody liked this story. Yes? Did you all like this? I just want to hear from you all. How was it? So the story basically talks about three elements of persuasion, right? And what are these three elements? Who's going to answer? What are the three elements of persuasion which this video talked about? What are the three elements that we have just now talked about? Ethos, pathos, right? I hope that you have understood that what is ethos and pathos and logos, right? What is ethos? Ethos is the emotional connect, right? So for a company, for an automobile company, They are going to show all the happy moments. They are going to show all, festival celebrations and all. Why? Because, buying an automobile, let's say buying a car in Indian families still, or not only in Indian family, but for everyone, buying a car is a matter of pleasure, right? Nobody is going to buy a car when he is not in a good mood, right? So that is ethos. Then what is pathos? What is pathos, students? Come on. What is pathos? Pathos is the authority. Just now we have talked about the same, right? That who is basically going to promote that content, who is going to talk about the skills as a soft skills trainer, right? And logos means the facts, the figures that are going to support you or that are going to advocate the principle that you're trying to put across. So these three things are also very important if you want to show the ethos, the pathos, and the logos, right? Let us have a look at a quick recap of whatever we have done so far. Right? You all can make use of this. Please have a look at this. This is a lengthy video. I have just, I'm just showing you all this to facilitate that this is the summary of the book by Robert Cialdini that is called as Six Skills of Persuasion. I'm not going to show you all the entire video. You all can search for this video on YouTube. This is titled as Science of Persuasion. Please check out for the video. Open it in a parallel window so that so that after the class you can have a look at the same. That will act as a quick recap of what we have done in the class. Okay, students, please search out for this video, Science of Persuasion. Have you all got this? Have you all got this video on YouTube, Science of Persuasion? All right. So after the class, please ensure that you have gone through this. This will also be very, very beneficial for you, right? This is again the principles that we have just now talked about by Robert Cialdini. This is of the same, right? Now, let me show you some practical tips that how can you improve your persuasion skills or how can you become a better influencer. I'm sure all of you want to become the same. Have a look at this. As we have talked about that it's always give and take. So please learn to do favors for people without expecting anything in return. That is the very first tip that I want to suggest, right? Second being, when asking for something, start with the big ask and then move to the small ask, right? Don't just start asking for a stapler pin and then ask for a computer or a printer. Rather, go straight away and ask for the printer itself, right? Frame decisions in terms of losses and not gains. Whenever you are in a decision making situation or when you have to you have to, make the other person believe with what you are saying, you should always start with losses, that what you are going to lose if you will not make this decision. Before you give your strongest argument or proposal, begin by pointing out the weaknesses or drawbacks. Once someone has said yes to something, they will again, right? So always try to deepen your existing relationships. Don't just maintain your relationships on a superficial level with people whom you try to persuade or who are important for you. Always try to maintain a deeper relationship and understanding with these fellows so that you can have a good enough relationship that will help you to persuade them, right? Make sure that you are seen in high demand. Remember that people tend to believe others whom they like. You have to figure out the similarities. You have to figure out the element of likability in you. You have to make yourself likable. And there are n number of reasons which will make you likable. How you dress up, how you carry yourself, right? What are the words which you make use of? Are you an optimistic person or just talk about the negativism all around, always, right? Whether you have those leadership skills in you. Remember all the topics that we have done so far. Are you a good team worker? Are you a good leader? Right? Or you always try to backchat? Right? These are the things and these are the skills which will improve your likability. And once you are a likable person, right? Once people are going to trust you, once people are going to believe you, definitely your influential skills or your persuasion skills will increase, right, students? So these are the practical tips which you all can follow. Now I'm sure that once you have gone through the title of the session today or the concept that we are going to cover, it was written persuasion skills and influencing skills, right? Now, can anybody tell me what is the basic difference between persuasion and influence? What is the basic difference between persuasion and influence? I will wait for your answers and until unless I'll get at least 10 answers, I will not continue. Otherwise, I will leave the session here. What is the basic difference between persuasion and influence? Quick difference between persuasion and influence. Okay, persuade is to make them act. Persuasion means to make someone agree and influence means to group up. Okay. All right. Influence is just persuasion is spontaneous. Okay. Influence is slow process. Okay, Sachinji, thank you so much for your inputs. What about our other students? Okay, so Gandhiji was a persuasive leader or was an influential leader. Gandhiji was a persuasive leader or was an influential leader. Gandhiji was an influencer, right? Very good. Everybody will agree with me on this, right? So there are a lot of things that you can, just focus on this example and you will understand. Influence may or may not be intentional. Every time it is not intentional, right? Gandhiji was not an intentionally influenced leader, right? He was not having this intention to influence others. But persuasion is always intentional. You have some intention to convince the other person, and there is, that is the situation where persuasion comes into play. Influence may or may not be explicit, but persuasion is always explicit. Can you persuade anybody through non-verbal cues? Students, can you persuade anyone through your non-verbal cues also? Do you persuade people with non-verbal cues or do you influence people with non-verbal cues? So in persuasion, there is more usage of communication skills in terms of verbal communication, whereas in influence, non-verbal cues can also play an important role, right? In persuasion, you don't make use of your power, you don't make use of your position, right? Persuasion is more or less based on ethos, pathos, and logos, right? But when we talk about influence, this influence can be because of many things, right? What we are seeing in Korea, what we have seen in China, that China, in Wuhan, what they have done, right? It is having a negative influence on everyone, right? So the subtle line of difference between persuasion and influence we got to understand. Broadly seeing both the concepts, the outcome remaining the same, that in both persuasion and influence, it is basically the capacity of an individual to have an effect on the character, on development, or on particular behavior of someone, right, without making use of power, money, coercion, punishment, right? That is what we understand by influence and persuasion. Clear? Don't go into the trivialities by trying to understand more on the difference. Rather, take these terms as complementary terms. The question arises that we have talked about persuasion skills. Why in this class, in learning soft skills, why are we trying to learn influence skills? Is it that important? Is it good? So students, please understand that influence is not inherently good or bad. It is basically the impact or the effect of that influence which will determine that whether it is good or it is bad. You might come across a lot of situations where influence can be used purely for selfish reasons. Right? There are a lot of examples like this where you will find that since a person was influential, he has used or she has used his or her powers to satisfy those selfish reasons or to fulfill those selfish objectives. If we talk about a leader making use of influence, so sometimes you will find a charismatic leader, a leader who, because of his or her personal charisma, is using that to enhance the effectiveness of the organization. Influence can also help to get a job done in an effective manner, right? If I am having a positive influence on you, a lot of students have sent their resume to me for correction. Even after sharing my feedback that this is not right, this needs to be corrected, this is good, they have sent me a modified version also of the same. Right. So sometimes this influence, so the influence that I'm able to make on all of you, that influence also helped me in getting a job done in an effective manner. Right. So that is how even the influencing skills are very, very important. And if we talk about professional life, so managerial success is firmly linked to the ability to exercise the right sort of influence at the right time. Right? So if you want to be really successful as a manager, you need to improve your influencing skills, because that is also one of the ways if you want to get things done from others. So this is a wonderful, flow chart I came across. So I thought that let me share this with all of you. You can see all the arrows are bidirectional. When I say bidirectional, that means it is having a two-way influence. So let's start with this influencing, right? So as you see in the middle of the flow chart, influencing means when you are able to persuade others. As I said, don't try to get into the trivialities of the difference. Rather, understand both the topics as complementary, right? That they go hand in hand. So you can also define influence as being able to persuade others and to negotiate with others so that you can reach to an agreement, right? Now, influencing also has a relationship, as you can see, the bi-directional arrow here. And here, as you can see, it's written persuading. So with the help of the influence, you can convince others, you can develop a line of reasoned arguments, backing up points with logic, using positive language. As I told you earlier also, these are also some of the ways in which you can influence others. Don't ever believe that making use of positive, negative words against anyone or talking about negative things will help you in earning a positive image. It will never happen like that, right? So always keep in mind, I think we have also talked about this when we are talking about interview skills, that whenever you are appearing for an interview, never talk ill or never talk negative about your college, about your teachers, about your seniors, about the organization where you have worked previously. Always focus on the positives, right? Because with speaking negative about somebody will not help you in fetching a positive image. Emphasizing the positive aspects of your argument. If you're going to talk about the positives, definitely it will have a very good impact or influence upon others, and this is what you aim for, right? With the help of persuasion skills and influential skills, you will be able to get your points across. Always believe, don't shout, don't exaggerate, right? Don't, get swayed away by emotions. Maintain a proper volume, maintain a proper, tone, maintain proper language if you really want to have an influence over others. With the help of your persuasion and influential skills, you can also tactfully challenge the views, right? There are bound to be disagreements, students. Always believe, even if you are in school, college, family, work life, marital relationship, there are bound to be, disagreements. It is very rare that you will find people agreeing on everything with you. So how you are going to face or handle those disagreements is something that you will help learn with the help of persuasion and influence skills. Negotiating, negotiate in negotiations also, influencing skills and persuasion skills play a very important role, because when you have to listen to what the other party has to say, you have to understand the needs of the other party, and with the use of proper ethos, pathos and logos, you can make that negotiation work for you. So if you're sitting in a negotiation with this mindset that we can enter into a win-win situation, something that is going to be beneficial for all those who are entering this negotiation deal, it will be very easy to influence others. Why are you looking for something that is a win-lose? Why somebody's win can be a loss to another person, right? So that is also one of the framework that will help you in becoming a good persuader or a good influencer. Getting an agreement acceptable to both sides, win-win, establishing trust. So if you are going to enter into a win-win situation, believe me, it will help you in establishing that trust with that other party or the other person or the other organization. And this will also increase the element of likability. Remember, Robert Cialdini said that in 6 principles of persuasion, one of the most important principle is likability also, liking. And if you want to improve your likability graph, you should try to explore and try to make a decision in every situation that is a win-win for all, right? Knowing when to compromise. Every time you cannot only have the decisions as per your will. Sometimes you also have to take up a decision that is a sort of compromising. You have to make some concessions for agreement, but there, what plays an important role is what is that something which is most important. Let me give you an example. Last year, when pandemic was, was just knocking at the doors of India, our PM made a very bold decision of implementing the lockdown, the nationwide lockdown that happened on 21st March, right? And it continued for almost 2 months. That was a very bold step and that was a compromise. Why? Because there were certain concessions. The economy came to a standstill. Every work stopped, not only in private offices, but in government offices also. Why? Because the priority was, health of everybody. Right? So India took all the reformative measures so that the basic health facilities can be improved to face or to fight with that pandemic situation. And the entire world appreciated that. Right? We are all aware of what happened around the world. We could not do such a compromise in the second wave, and that had a very detrimental effect on all of us. We have lost so many lives. Right? So sometimes you have to make concessions to make the things going. Using open and encouraging body language as a leader of the team, as a manager, as a team worker, your body language, your words, your skills need to be very open in the sense that the other person should feel comfortable in your company. The other person should have this impression that he or she can discuss all the problems with you and should have that thing in mind. If my junior comes up to me, right, or for teachers it is very important that the impression that they have on the students, that if a student is coming to them for any question or for any problem, they will be able to sort it out or they will be able to solve it. So they should have that open approach. Nowadays, if you have read a little bit of management or once you'll be entering an organization you study, there are two things. One is called as open door policy and the second one is called as closed door policy. Open door policy means the leaders or the managers or the bosses who are available for their subordinates and juniors to discuss problems and issues, right? So that open door policy is also something that helps us in having a positive influence or having a good impact on others, right? So now it has almost brought us to the end of the session, but before really ending the session, last a video for you all, just as a quick recap. This is again how the principles of persuasion by Robert Cialdini. Let's have a look at this.
That have made a major impact on my life, and it can for you too. Watch this video to the end to learn the 6 weapons of influence that can dramatically improve your relationships, business, and career goals. The first is reciprocation. People don't like feeling they owe someone something. To make someone feel this way, offer them a free gift or favor. Often this will lead to a bigger reciprocal response. This is why you see marketers offering you that free PDF, 10 ways to make money online fast. Marketers give you a small gift jam-packed with value and hope that you reciprocate by buying their $47 video course. I used this principle to get my first mentor. I offered to manage his Facebook page for free and he reciprocated by inviting me to a video call. The bottom line is, if you want something from someone, offer them something small for free. Moving on to weapon number 5, commitment and consistency. Humans tend to do something once we've agreed to it verbally or in writing. This is why marketers offer us a tripwire product. A tripwire is an irresistible, low-risk paid offer, like a $7 ebook, for example. You're more likely to buy more books or products from the same author. The same goes for your personal goals. Write them down or tell your friends that you will lose 5 kilograms over the next 3 months or be making $1,000 per month by the end of the year. You're more likely to commit. The next weapon, social proof. When people are unsure about a course of action, they tend to look to those around them to guide them. For example, would you buy book A with 0 reviews or book B with 165 reviews? If you're like me, you chose B. No reviews leaves us with uncertainty. You'll also be more attractive at nightclub if you bring friends with you. It demonstrates that you're attractive because other people want to be around you. This is social proof. The next weapon is liking. People prefer to say yes to those they know and like. We automatically attribute traits such as honesty, talent, and intelligence to attractive people. We gravitate to people who share similar views, interests, and values as ourselves. Perhaps you want to get a girlfriend or attract a new client for your business. You need to find areas of shared interest to increase rapport and ultimately become more likable. The second to last weapon is authority. The more authority you are perceived as having, the more likely others are to comply with you. Imagine you've contracted a horrific brain tumor. You rush to the doctor's surgery. You're thrown onto the operating table. You look up and you see a man dressed in a Santa suit. Do you trust this guy to diddle-daddle with your brain? Of course not. But if he was wearing a white doctor's coat and had a stethoscope around his neck, you probably would, right? It immediately tells you he's a doctor and he knows his stuff. It conveys authority, so we trust him. This is the reason I spend 5 times more than I normally would on a new pair of shoes when I go to business networking events. To bring the point home, this classic scam where thieves dress up in official-looking uniforms and pretend to be parking inspectors. They appear authoritative. They lie that the ticket machine is broken and ask civilians to pay them the parking fee. But you didn't hear that from me. The final weapon is scarcity. The thought of losing something motivates us more than the thought of gaining something of similar value. This is exactly why advertisers ask you to buy that new camera at a discounted price for a limited time only. The power of scarcity extends beyond selling cameras. I take advantage of the principle by letting others know that I have a tight schedule, so time with me becomes a scarce opportunity and therefore increases my value as a human being. I also don't respond to Facebook messages instantly, which shows I've got more meaningful things to do. So to sum up, anytime you want something from someone else, always consider what weapons of influence you can use. Thank you for listening, guys. Don't forget to join my email list on brainsneckaville.com to get 3 gold nuggets from the book I'm reading every week.
Right. So this was a quick recap of the entire session that we had today. Right. And I'm sure that everybody enjoyed the session. So this brings us to the end of the 22 module series, 22 sessions series of soft skills training that was organized for you by MentorBuddy. I hope that you have got a lot of learnings from these sessions. Stay connected with me. You can write to me on feedback.mentorbuddy@gmail.com. You can connect with the technical team on support@mentorbuddy. You can search me on LinkedIn also. Tag us on Quantum Learnings. Visit our websites, MentorBuddy and Center of Excellence, for all the updates and a lot of career related material for your campus recruitment preparation. You can connect with me for career guidance on my Facebook page, that is Guidance for Career. So with these words, I would like to end up the session over here with just a very small story, which I'm sure that all of you are going to remember me with that story. Right. So students, have you ever seen an elephant? Have you ever seen an elephant? Right? If you would have ever seen, you can notice that the elephant is generally tied with a small rope or with a small chain from a very small log, right? So a very small, and that log does not have even so much of power that it can hold the elephant with that chain or that rope. You will hardly find any elephant being, a domesticated elephant being put in cage. Not even in zoo also, that you will find an elephant being, kept in a cage. Why? Because when an elephant is domesticated, right from when the elephant is a calf, right? So from the very starting, that small elephant is tied with a rope or with a chain to a to a small tree or something. And this is how the brain of that small elephant is trained, that this chain is very strong and you cannot break it, because at that time the small elephant is not so powerful that it can break that chain. So gradually the elephant develops this mentality that this chain is stronger than me and I will never be able to break it. I will never be able to break myself free from this chain, right? Although the animal on growing up can break itself free at any time from this bond, but because of the belief that it had, that is stuck right where they are. So students, like this elephant, how many of us go through life hanging on to a belief that we cannot do something simply because we failed at it once before? Suppose we got failed in something, we tried something and we were not able to do it. Now it leads such a belief, no, such a strong belief in our brains that I'm not capable of doing this. I will not be able to do this. And throughout our life, we are, we keep on holding that belief in ourselves. We get ourselves tied away with a small rope or with a small chain to a, to a lesser powerful tree that I won't be able to break myself free from this chain, right? So students always believe and always understand that failure is a part of life. Failure is a part of learning. It is very important because that maturity, that wisdom, it comes from our failures also, right? Always remember that we should never give up the struggle in life. We should never, just have a belief that since something bad happened with us earlier, so next time also if I'm going to try, the same thing will happen, right? Try and try till you succeed, and every time you fail, evaluate your efforts, evaluate where you went wrong, work on it again, bounce back and try, right? So with these words, I would like to end my session here. I'm sure that you all enjoyed my sessions because I personally enjoyed interacting with you all a lot. Thank you so much, and I'm really, really looking forward to see all of you being successful in life, and my sincere wishes and blessings that all of you, your dreams would come true and you all be very, very successful in life. Thank you so much, students. We'll be connecting for a live session very soon. As I said, probably this coming Saturday, you'll be receiving the invites for the same. Invites will be sent to only those students who are connected with us on feedback.mentorpudi@gmail.com. Right? I'm open for any questions as today being the last session. Right? So if you have any questions, suggestions, feedback, please feel free to write to me on feedback@mentorpudi, or you can also share it with me through the question pane. I would love to have a look at your feedback and suggestions. I'll stay more for the next 2 minutes and then we'll close the session. Thank you so much, students. Thank you, Vanchita. Thank you, Charmi. Thank you so much, Dhwani, for such a wonderful feedback. Thank you so much, Sachin sir. Good wishes. All the best for you. Any questions, and students? Anybody who would like to say anything or connect? Thank you so much, Eva. You all are amazing students. I really enjoyed, right? And with the help of the question box, as you were constantly interacting with me, it made the impression that yes, it's a two-way communication. Thank you so much, Dhwani. Thank you, Vinay. God bless. Thank you so much, students. I think nobody has a question to ask. Still, if you have anything to ask, connect with me on Facebook. You can connect with me, or you can connect with me on feedback.mentorpudi@gmail.com. I would love to answer your queries. Thank you so much, everybody. God bless. Take care.